yes, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. What's up, everybody? This is MC Till with everybody's hip hop label. We are super excited to be back. This is our first episode back for the new season, and just excited to be back. Before we jump in, we always got to shout out our unofficial official sponsors, Everybody's Records here in Cincinnati, Ohio. If you don't know about this record store by now, man, what's going on? You need to know about them. They're a great record store. And if you can't get here and call me up, we can go there together. You can go see them online at everybody'srecords.com as well. So make sure you support them. Yeah. So tonight we have something new. Well, before that, let me say hello to Joe. Joe November's in the house tonight with his dope shirt. What's up, Joe? How you doing?
What's up, fam? Yeah, this I just got this shirt today, actually.
Oh, heck
Uh,
yeah.
it's basically just my influences. So you got Tribe Called Quest, PM Dawn, Jamiroquai, DJ Quick, and Take
And
Six.
take
Oh,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
that is an
yeah.
interesting
Takes
Pretty
mix,
six.
man.
It is
diverse.
a very interesting mix, but if
That's
you listen to
awesome.
my music, you can kind of hear a little bit
Right
of all
on.
that.
The
Yeah,
amalgamation. I love
that's
it.
Yeah.
dope. That's dope. Also, new season, and we have a new host for this season, which is
Yes,
super
yes.
exciting. Prowess the Testament joined us at the tail end
Hey.
of last year. And
Mm.
so we just thought, man, she's so dope. Hey, well, you want to try hosting this show? I think you'd be awesome. And she was like, yeah, let's do it. So without further ado, I'm gonna turn it over to Prowess the Testament and take it. You can take it away and introduce our guests from there. So welcome.
Hey, yes, thank you so much for that introduction, MC Till, and thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. It's another episode of Boom Bap Chat, and tonight we are honored, thankful to have a true student of the culture with us, all the
Yeah.
way from, and correct me, is it Mississauga, Ontario?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
Nice.
Now, S has been making waves with the hard beats, raw rhymes, a deep love for the golden era sound, which we all love here, with projects like Social Media Volume 1, You Want a Piece of Me, Driver or Driven. He's shown a commitment to preserving the essence of true school hip hop while keeping his message fresh and relevant. So join me and welcome the one and only S. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.
So,
Wonderful. I'm so glad that you are able to join us tonight. I think this has been probably a long time in the making. You've collaborated with I feel like with all of us at some point in some way, form or fashion. Um, but I wonder for our guests, tell us a little bit about your introduction to hip hop, because it feels like you have this golden era foundation with legends like EPMD and Run DMC, KRS-One. How did those artists that you note approach or model your approach to hip hop, and what lessons from that era continue to guide your music today?
Oh man, yeah. So just to answer your the very first question you asked, so it was Run DMC that they were my introduction to hip hop. I've spoken about this in other interviews, and I've even done songs about it. But I was 10 years old. I was living in the Caribbean island of Trinidad and Tobago at the time. And
TNT.
TNT, yeah.
Yeah, my wife is Trini.
Ah, yes, yes, yes. So yeah, watching regularly scheduled programming and this commercial comes on, or at least what I thought was a commercial. It was these three black dudes, bucket hats on, white sneakers, no laces, and they're doing this thing that I'd never experienced or seen before. And I later learned that they went by the name Run DMC. Tricky, that was it's Tricky was the first visual from them that I saw, and I think that was sort of the catalyst that kind of piqued my interest as far as what is this thing, what is this, and fast forward. I get acquainted with groups like Boogie Down Productions, KRS-One, EPMD. Those are some of the early acts that really had me inspired and really interested in learning more about this new thing that I'd never seen or heard of before. And yeah, it's been on ever since '87, and since you know my love began, and fast forward, almost 35 plus years later, and I'm still in love with this thing. Uh, this is what keeps me going and keeps my heart pumping and, keeps me inspired and youthful in my older age.
Oh, older age. We're not going to go there because we're going to say this is timeless. It's timeless, right? Like,
It's timeless,
yeah.
absolutely.
And I'm going to ask you about that around a little later. We'll talk about like modern projects that where do we put those in the canon, but we'll come back to that.
Okay.
I wonder how did your your writing process rather and your approach to lyricism, because I mean you are it's I will say I saw a lot of people commenting that you have a raw style, but I was like it's very melodic actually. And it's the lyricism is poetic, but it's delivered very sort of there's a lot of intentionality in it. What's your writing process and where do you draw your influences from?
I draw influences from pretty much anything. My family, life experiences, a little bit of social commentary, and just stuff that is relevant to me, my lifestyle, what I care about. And it all comes down to the music. I've been fortunate enough over the years to network and connect with a lot of really talented artists, producers, beat makers. And when I sit down to write, it's usually I gain inspiration from the music that I've been provided, and I sort of build off of the mood, the sample, the drums. It's all about the music. That's what inspires the mood, and I sort of a lot of the times draw off of the energy of the music to tailor what I want to convey to the world. So that's pretty much it. It's nothing too complex. I've been able to find ways to simplify the process, and it's a process that seems to work for me, and that's what I keep doing.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever get writer's block or creative blocks, or and how do you deal with that when that time comes?
Yep, I do get writer's block, and I've also written about experiences like that. Sometimes it's just as simple as taking a step back or taking a step away from it, and just drawing off of life experiences that'll get me inspired to write again. But I try not to put too much pressure on myself to write like every day. That's the
Yeah.
goal, is to pen something every day. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But when I hit those spells where I don't think I'm coming up with anything, I guess to the level or to the standard that I hold myself to, I just sort of take a step back and walk away from it for a couple of days, couple of weeks, and then I come back reinvigorated again. So yeah.
I love that. I'm going to take that advice. Oh, hard sometimes to walk away, but I
Mm.
love that idea of
Yeah,
just
yeah, maybe not walking away, but taking a step back for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, trying to reflect and then reset a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Well, tell me about so we started this out introducing you from growing up in Mississauga. That's a suburb of T Dot, right? How does your influence or how does that influence your hip hop? Were there any like local artists? Because that's such a burgeoning scene, tons of talent. I mean, and then you also have Drake, right? And then you have, you know, all these different, you have Eternia, you have so many different folks. Were there any like local artists or scenes in the community that played a role in shaping your musical style or your love for the culture?
As far as from a local standpoint, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I grew up probably about 45, maybe a little under an hour away from where I'm at right now, but still sort of, within an hour of Toronto. So Toronto is the nearest, major city, big scene that I grew up, really following. So you have artists like Socrates and
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Cardinal Official and Danny O and Ghetto Concept, some really
Yep.
pioneer, Toronto hip hop artists that sort of set the tone for what the city was capable of. And this is, I mean, way, way, way before the Drakes came into the fray. But
Mm-hmm.
those are some of the groups that, Maestro Fresh West is another one.
Mm.
Eternia, she really,
Yeah.
another really talented artist. So yeah, I mean, a lot of them, cut from similar cloth as me, grew up listening to the same type of influences, lyricism, hard beats, thought-provoking, content. That's the stuff that I came up, being a fan of, and these artists carry that same torch. So that's a lot of what inspired me to continue to do what I do, or try to do what I do at a younger age.
Yeah, that is a list. Yes, all of
Mhm.
those folks, incredible artists. I was like Toronto was just like it's just bursting at the seams with so much talent. And then I feel like it's there is a scene there that probably is even unexplored. There's underground sort of indie culture that folks haven't
Absolutely.
heard.
Yeah.
Tell and speaking of when you started out, you talked about this long history, and you said 35 years later. I'm wondering, so that's a immense amount of time in this culture, and you've been a part of it for decades. What do you think has been the key to longevity, to your longevity as an artist and even as a fan?
I love it. You know, I have a genuine love for this, and
Mm.
I was inspired to take from the greats before me, inspired by the greats before me, and I just, as a fan, I just wanted to carry on tradition, be able to do my own interpretation of what hip hop means to me, and sort of inject some of my life experiences and my trials and tribulations into it, and share my experiences with like-minded people. That's really what I wanted to do, and it sort of grew into this thing that it is right now. And I'm so grateful for the level of support, locally and across borders, for what I do and how I do it. And a lot of that is what keeps me going, because there are enough people out there that value what I have to say and how I say it, and they're the ones that encourage me to keep going, because they're able to see a little bit of themselves in me as well. So that's another cherry on top as well, that keeps me inspired to
Yeah,
keep going.
Nice.
yeah. Did I miss someone? Was someone going to chime in?
Oh no, I was just saying, yeah, that's a great answer. And it's definitely nice to see how influences can kind of carry longevity through artists such as yourself for a long period of time. I did want to ask you one question though. You talked about the hip hop memory that you had that inspired you, but what about your first musical memory? And it could be something that you heard when you were a child, or something that just drew you into music initially, even before you heard hip hop.
Hmm.
I'd say my parents were really big on collecting soul records back
Mm.
in the day. I mean,
Okay.
uh 70s music, the Stevie Wonders and the Dionne Warwicks and the, Teddy Pendergrass. I mean, they were vinyl heads back in the day. And it's funny, I joke with them now, that I've, released some of my own material on vinyl, and they ask me questions like, nobody has record players anymore. They're shocked that I'd even invest in, trying to get my music on vinyl. Like, who has record players anymore? I say, no, 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 no. There's a big market out there. Believe me.
Yes.
There are people out there
Yeah.
that collect vinyl. There's DJs out there. There's just, hobbyists that just collect it just for the sake of collecting it. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I really wish in retrospect that they would have hung on to a lot of their old records. But
Mm.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I'm a big fan of soul music. I mean, I love, 80s rock, 80s pop, soul music, 90s R&B, hip hop.
Mm, mhm.
Pretty vast musical palette that inspired, my love for music. So
Awesome. Thank
yeah.
you.
Great. Yeah, I love that. And that brings a lot of perspective, I feel like, to how your lyricism, it's you can see a lot of those different influences. Because I feel like when you said soul music, I'm like, it's very soulful. In delivery and just approach. Speaking of that, kind of thinking about, I had a question around social media and kind of the era of virtual clout. And I was revisiting Social Media Volume 1 this week, and I really loved the fact that I feel like maybe in this era, like we've had several arcs since the pre-pandemic and then the pandemic and then post, and I feel like in each of those our culture has shifted a lot with social media. But with the rise of influencers and digital personas and AI and all of these things intersecting, do you think how do you feel that that has played a role in influencing the authenticity of hip hop culture, and how have you navigated that?
Well, I mean, with any technology, like I mean, I've even mentioned it in songs. You know, I mean, it's a gift and a curse. You know, as we advance as the society, you know, there's always going to be this push to make things easier, faster, better, stronger. You know, however you want to interpret it. So, I mean, we knew it was coming. It was bound to happen, and you know, it's one of those tools that's available to us. You know, when I say us, I'm talking about the collective us, to utilize. Whether we how we choose to utilize it is, you know, is solely on us.
Mhm.
But it's, you know, it's just another tool in the toolkit. It's you know, when if used responsibly, it could be beneficial. If not, you know, there's always going to be those that'll try to exploit it and, you know, take shortcuts. But you know, I try to, you know, not stray too far from like the foundation. You know, utilize it to, you know, promote myself, you know, reach a broader audience, but at the same time, still try to keep the artistic integrity as much as possible.
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question.
You did. I was really curious, like how what that balance looks like, because I feel like it's you. There's a lot of song, well, some of the song content in that album. It feels like it's so timely. Like it could sit right here today. And that was from 2019, right? I feel like it's just like
2019, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
right before we're kind of in this space now where there's also like a voice that feels pressured, I think, as hip hop artists for this online clout. Like some folks are like,
Mm.
I just want to do the music. I don't want to connect with I don't want to have the engagement piece. What does that look like? Because you've actually done a really good job. I feel like that relationship between music and merch and sort of the physical, and you just talked about the vinyl that you have. I feel like you've done a great job of building that engagement and connection with your audience. But how do you think that has affected the audience itself? Like they're a little bit pressured to want more from artists than just like, I want the music, but give me you. What?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, great question. Yeah, I mean, we live in, you know, the phrasing has been, you know, we live in a microwave society. It's all about, you know, just pumping out more, faster, you know,
Yeah.
at least expensive as possible. So, you know, the fans almost have, you know, grown this expectation that
Mhm.
you know, you just keep pumping out the music. And, you know, for some artists, it's easier for them to do it. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little bit too old school. I came up in the era of you drop, you know, one project every year or 2 years and really push it for that year or year and a half or 2 years before you move on to the next thing. You know, some artists pump out three, four, five albums in a single year. I mean, different strokes for different folks. I don't fault anyone for how they choose to you know, do their hustle. But yeah, I mean, it's a balance. At the same time, you don't want to oversaturate or dilute your brand too much.
Yeah.
And I think I've tried to do you know, my best to balance things out, you know, give them content and, you know, try to stretch the content out as long as I can or as much as I can with different techniques and things that I've done, while still keeping them engaged enough to, hold off until, the next thing is ready to drop. So, I mean, it's a balancing act. There's no one size fits all, strategy that'll work for everyone. Everyone's different, but
Mhm.
it's all about an artist knowing their audience and knowing their audience's buying habits or consumption habits and doing what's in the best interest of them and their audience. And like I said, it's a balancing act, and social media keeps keeps us on our toes in that regard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yes.
I
I want,
was gonna
yeah,
say I'm sorry. I was gonna
no,
say
go ahead.
that the balancing act is key, and something you said really spoke to me about knowing your audience because uh when you look at how people push albums today versus 20, 30 years ago, it was exactly how you said, where you put an album out and then you kind of just milk it as long as you can and then get another one. But now with today's generation of listeners, and I would say the newer generation, older generation definitely has I'm okay if you release one or two albums a year, whereas the newer generation is like, I want to hear something new every few weeks or something
Yeah.
like that, or else my attention is diverted. And that's either based on the new generation itself, plus kind of like the attention deficit that social media does create,
Mm.
where
Hmm.
it's like there's so much information that people just don't have time to digest it all. So they just, it's just as simple as scrolling through IG videos and having a 30-second laugh about something and then moving on to some other topic. And that's just how
Right.
the mind is working nowadays. And so the
Yeah.
taste of music is very similar to that, where, they're wanting to consume quickly, but not absorb for a long period of time. And so, artists like yourself have to make sure that you find a balancing act between that. Also, catering to your audience who is going to listen to your music for a long time as well. So I know it's difficult for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious to know when you are creating music, when you're writing it, recording it, does the audience creep in sometimes like, oh man, I don't know if I should write this. My audience may not like it. Or is it just more pure, just like, hey, I'm gonna create what comes to me and then the audience likes it or they don't?
I do it for me first.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
It has to pass my sniff test first, or it doesn't come out.
yeah,
And I have a certain style of writing and certain topics that I like to write about. And I think over the years, my supporters have grown to appreciate that about me. So they know that, when I put something out, it's all me and it's 100% me. And they've grown to love and respect that about me. So I keep trying my best to feed them that, and try to change things up every once in a while. But at the end of the day, it's 100% me is what I try
yeah.
to put out there.
That's dope. And as a follow-up, has there been a moment where either someone that you didn't know, a fan that you didn't know, made a comment to you, or maybe a legend played your music and shouted you out? Has there been a moment where you're just like, oh man, this is amazing. I can stop doing it today because this just feels so good.
Yeah, Mr. MC Till, we had one of those moments just a couple
Yeah.
months ago.
I was wondering if that might be one of your moments.
Oh, nice
Tell, tell the
Not
people
to t-
about that, man.
not to toot your own horn. Yeah, yeah. You know what? Yeah, it's those moments. Those are sort of the cherry on the top. I mean,
Yeah,
we do this because we love it, and we have to keep reminding ourselves that we never know. You never know who's listening. We
yeah,
do it because we love it, and if people take notice, that's just awesome. That's just the cherry on the top. And but especially when it comes from someone at that level, it's just like, oh my gosh, like that's my Grammy. That's
yeah,
that's our
yeah.
Grammy.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah,
So if
no
I
doubt.
were to decide for whatever reason to walk away from it all, I can walk away proud with my head held high that one of the biggest names in not just hip hop but music
Yeah,
knows my name, and one is something that I created hit his radar, and he felt strongly enough about it to even plug it and talk about it, and put
Yeah.
his peoples onto it, and that's just like nothing. You can't beat that.
Yeah. Yeah. No
Can you
doubt.
share who that artist was just for the audience?
Yeah.
Yeah, a gentleman by the name of Chuck D from Public Enemy, legendary Public
Just
Enemy.
yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I remember seeing that. I just wanted to make sure that's who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if there's ever you get used to something like that, right? Like that just feels like, yeah, you said it's the cherry on the top. Yeah, it's like who thinks that that would be where it goes, right? Like, I mean, no
Mm,
one, maybe people do say, I want Chuck D to play this song, let me create
Mhm.
something, but to not have that intention and to
right.
sort of do that and it happen by happenstance, but it is also kind of intentional. It's like you made such classically designed music, right?
Yeah.
That it reached the right person that appreciated that. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, it's just sort of putting yourself out there and networking as best you can, trying to get into the right hands. And I was fortunate enough to build a relationship with a gentleman who goes by the name of Malcolm Riddle. Shout out to Chairman Mal.
Yeah.
He's
Mm,
I guess one of the curators for Chuck D's radio show and the various radio shows on his platforms that he's the guy that takes in all these submissions and based on whatever volume of submissions that he receives, he puts in front of Chuck the ones that he feels are the best or high enough quality. And ultimately Chuck D plays the songs that he entrusts his curators to put in front of him. So absolutely blessed and fortunate to have been able to cultivate that relationship. And yeah, he's been absolutely incredible in terms of just putting my music in front of a bigger audience. So
yeah.
forever grateful for
That's
that.
that's so
That's
dope.
dope.
I mean, he was influencing or influential in, you know, Fear of a Black Planet and Nation of Millions. And like those are
Mhm.
such classic albums
Classics.
that
Yeah.
have
Hmm.
Yeah.
influenced millions, really, when you
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just to have that accolade from someone like him, I know that's so dope. That's I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I'm happy for you all over again.
Yeah, same.
Uh,
It like gives goosebumps a little. It's like, wow, this is yeah. Um, and you talked a little bit about collaboration. I wanted to bring up that I as we're both in Sons of Boom Bap, but you have definitely been an anchor, I feel like, in that community, and worked with so many people and partnered with even with Shark on
Mhm.
reflections and
yeah.
on other projects. What does that look like for blending, one just cross-cultural connections and then cross-continental connections? What was that like to work with Shark and what's it like to work in the community of Sons of Boom Bap?
Shark is he's the
Mm,
ultimate professional, like really, really talented artist. He's from a city probably just an hour away from me. I mean I've known him for over 20 years.
mm,
As a young artist, he was one of the rising, underground hip hop artists in the area. And I'd been to some of his like early shows, like early we're talking like early 2000s. Um, I'd seen him perform, we had a bunch of mutual friends. And we reconnected many years later on social media, and we've worked together a few times in the past on his projects. He's been on mine, and mutual friends and things like that. And he's a really, really dope artist, dope MC, really good writer. One of my favorites, in the scene. And he'd approached myself and dozens of other artists such as yourself and other talented artists to form this this collective called Sons of Boom Bap. And I believe this was back in, I'm gonna say maybe 2017, maybe 2018. And he had this vision of creating this large collective of MCs, DJs, producers who would collaborate on these projects and just keep the boom bap vibe alive. And he had a pretty vast network of folks from the US, Canada, different parts of Europe. And yeah, we've done this for a number of years and took a little bit of a break to sort of recalibrate, get things back in order, and we're back at it again. We just dropped our follow-up album just last week, and yeah, just doing what we can, strengthen numbers to sort of get the brand and the name out there, and just do what we enjoy doing. Just
Yeah.
creating music that people can vibe to, and yeah, just helping each other, pushing each other to be the best versions of ourselves. So
Yeah.
yeah, shout out to Shark.
Yes, I met Shark through DJ Alchemy, I think, and just I
Yes.
mean the whole I was just so thrilled. I felt like so seen to be a part of the community, just as a fan of everyone in the community. It was like, yeah, as an artist, but even more, it's just watching the creation of things and like getting dope music. Like there's a ping in the chat every day or several times a day.
Yeah.
It's just like this is like I get the chance to listen to this and nobody else gets to hear it first. And so it does
Yeah.
feel like this great crucible of talent and people that are just such good spirited. And I kind of brings me to a little bit about driver or driven. And because there's a lot of concepts of self-reflection on there, and accountability. And I wonder when you were making the album, when was that intentional? Like, I feel like was it something that you set out to do, or when you were creating it, did that sort of happen as you were building it? You didn't realize it until the end that it was kind of forced on or connected in that way to self-reflection and accountability.
It sort of developed that way. So my process when I create albums is I'll work on 3-4 songs. The first 3-4 songs, I'll just write them from the place that I usually write music from. Whatever is inspiring me at the time, whether it's the music, whether it's something happening in my life. I'll create 3 or 4 songs. Once I have those first 3 or 4 songs, I intentionally try to find the common thread between those 3 or 4 songs. And once I'm
Mm.
able to come up with that focal theme, then I build the remainder of the album around that focal 3 or 4 songs. So I think at the time, the first 3 or 4 songs I did had sort of this theme of being motivated, being driven, going for it, going for the
Mm.
gusto, believing in yourself. That sort of theme, and the songs that I created after that were sort of just different aspects of that focal theme. So that's really how I created it, and I sort of did the song titles to match that theme, and everything just kind of worked out. There's a little bit of touching up as we go to sort of type, bring the concepts together through a couple of interludes and things like that. But yeah, that's typically my approach when I create albums. I start off with 3 or 4, find the common thread, and then build off of that for the remainder of the songs.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
I thought. Uh, oh, sorry. I was just gonna say I found that really interesting. That it sounds like you just kind of naturally, like almost like the question I asked earlier, like how do you create? Do you let outside influences creep in and like, just kind of keeping it pure to the point where you don't even map out an album. Like, oh, I'm gonna make this album. It's like, nah, I'm gonna just create authentically, pure, and then whatever kind of bubbles to the surface after a few recordings will go
Yeah,
that direction. That's
yeah.
dope.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And do
worked
you,
out,
you
so I just I
yeah.
just keep doing it. Rinse,
Yeah, I
cycle,
like it.
repeat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
It
cool.
ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly. It's interesting because I'm like you record everything in yourself, right? And then you have different featured artists on projects at like That's the Beat Junkie. You've got like a lot of it's interesting how you put that all together when you're able to stay focused. I feel like a lot of folks get lost sometimes in what Till's saying. Like I sometimes it will affect me when I'm like, oh, how do I feel like people are going to resonate with this song? Well, it might be connected to me. Do you ever navigate moments of like doubt of how the audience might perceive something or hear something? I mean, we're such a cancel culture. I don't even know what we call it now, but like, oh, I didn't like the fact that you used this word that you didn't even realize was a slur, or maybe how does that affect you at all?
Um, you know what? I don't really get those thoughts during the creation aspect. It's usually once I have the completed recording and I'm ready to put it out, there's always that little bit of self-doubt. Oh, how,
Mm.
I hope people like it. I hope it resonates with people. I always, put my all into these projects that I put out. So there's always the pre-release jitters, if for lack of a better term. It's always the fear of the unknown. You don't know how the previous release was received well, but are they gonna vibe to this one? There's always, I don't know, should I change this or should I take this song away or should I add some? There's always that bit of pre-game panic. But then, once you finally make the decision that you're gonna stand on this project and this is what it is. I'm putting it out there. I stand behind it, and you sort of take what comes after that. And knock on wood, I haven't had any missteps, so I'm grateful. But
Okay.
yeah, it's always uh yeah, fear of the unknown once the completed project is ready to be released.
I love it. Yeah. Well, you know what? That is, I feel like maybe that's a theme probably in your music too. It seems like you strike that nice balance of like maybe it's because you are universally relatable, and that's a great thing to be able to, that's a gift. Because not everyone does have that. I feel like that's something that I noticed in your music too. Just the themes, overcoming obstacles, talking about, like you said, real life experiences, and the
Right.
way that it shaped your project. So that also could be, maybe people find, true intention, and they find true beliefs that they also hold, or makes them think about different things. So that's a
Yeah.
good process to have, of like shutting out the world a little bit. Wish we all could do that more around
Yeah.
everything. I wonder, how does everybody feel about getting into, we had sent over a list of albums,
Ooh.
favorite albums. And I feel like we we were talking about those albums that you sent over. As you said, in no particular order, but there were some gems, a lot, every one of them was a gem.
Yes.
But I wonder, there was a couple of them that I saw. Any commentary on why you chose the albums? Some comments, some Sean Price, some Nas, um,
Well,
Little Brother.
those ones in particular. So those were just the ones that got a lot, like I mean, a lot of spins. Like they were on repeat heavily. So some of them were like early '90s, mid '90s selections that they were bumping in my Walkman heavy or my
Mm.
CD player heavy. And some of the more recent ones are, yeah, ones that definitely stood out for me at the time, and I still have them in my phone in my Bandcamp playlist, so I play them repeatedly. So yeah, those ones got a lot of play. So not necessarily that they were, let's say, top five of all time or anything like that, but those are the ones that really got a lot of spin and inspired or molded me in some way to be the artist I am today.
I love that. Um, Till, any thoughts on whether or not we want to do one word?
Oh yeah, let's do it. Yeah. Have you seen this S? I'm not sure if you've
Uh,
seen this segment.
I might have seen it once before, but please refresh my memory.
Okay, so this segment, we will present an album to you, and you have to respond to it using one word or less. That is the challenge.
Okay.
Are you ready? Do you accept the challenge?
I accept the challenge.
Yay.
I I hope I pass.
We shall see. Some greats have passed this test. Some greats have also failed this test. All right, the first one, Return of the Boom Bap by KRS-One.
Monumental.
Oh,
Okay. All right.
good,
That's a good
good word.
word.
Yeah.
That's a dope word. Yes. And anytime, Joe Prowess, you're allowed to ask why he chose the word and expand. All right. While we're on the return theme, there's a lot of return. I've noticed there's a lot of return.
Return.
There's a lot of returns. Hip hop, we just like to return a lot. Okay. This is Return of the Funky Man by Lord Finesse.
Yeah.
So this one, I'll say first.
First.
First. Okay,
First,
now I'm curious.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
please expand.
first cassette I ever purchased with my own money. Return of the Funky Man by Lord Finesse.
Oh,
So
Nice.
that album
nice.
has a very special place in my heart. I have it on cassette somewhere here. But yeah, the very
Wow.
first cassette I purchased in high school with my own money.
You
That's
never
dope.
forget your first.
Right.
All right, next one is Monkey Bars by Sean Price.
Come back.
Come back.
Come
Heck
back.
yeah. Okay,
That's a good one.
who else has a comeback that rivals Sean Price in hip hop?
Not too many
Mm.
folks.
I'm thinking one person in particular. You might throw another one at us, but I'm thinking one person in particular. Dope was in a dope group, couple
Busta?
albums. No,
Busta
not
Rhymes?
Busta.
Rock
Oh,
Marcy?
Not Rock Mar. Well, that's a good one too, though.
Mhm.
Rock Marcy's a
no.
great one.
Hmm.
He also is a fallen soldier. He also passed away. Rest in
Mhm.
peace. People love
Mhm.
this man. He wore a mask.
Doom.
Oh,
Doom.
Oh,
Doom,
Doom.
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 Oh, yeah.
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 Yeah, yeah.
I feel like
Reinvention.
Doom and Sean Price have a very similar kind of arc in their story. I mean, it's very
Mhm.
different as well, but in a similar way,
Yeah.
they just were so dope in a group, and then where did they go? And then boom, they came back on the scene with a vengeance and just kind of took over. And people to this day say that they are the greatest ever. So
Yeah.
Yeah, so
dope.
much so that you don't really remember like the earlier stuff.
I know. Yeah,
Yeah, like
exactly.
the way he reinvented himself on that one was like, wow, this is
Yeah.
something special.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of something special, this is Stress, the Extinction Agenda
Yay.
by Organized Confusion.
Uh, Dress.
Stress. That's your word, stress.
Yeah, I love that song. That's my favorite
Yeah, yeah.
Shelly joint on that.
Oh,
That
The
is
Gotcha.
good.
Extra P
Yeah.
remix though. The Extra P remix though.
Oh,
I like that one
yes.
better.
I
But
like that one too.
the
And
original's still dope.
Pharoah Monch, new album coming out. I just saw him posted on Twitter. He's clearing the
really? Oh,
samples.
okay.
Yes,
Wow.
external affairs is I think what he's calling it.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
all
Because
okay.
right.
wasn't this year the 20-year anniversary of
Ah,
Internal Affairs? I think you said
Yeah,
that
it was. It's the 30th, right?
the
It's
30th. Yeah.
94. Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. His
no,
album
I-
his album can is so old
Sheesh,
it can do a
30 years
mortgage
ago.
now.
Yeah,
crazy, crazy.
that's
All right,
wild.
from one of the greatest lyricists of all time, we go to another amazing lyricist. This is the preface by Elzai that you had the blessing of doing a song with, which is super dope.
Yeah, that's
Oh.
pretty cool.
Yeah,
What one word for this one? I'm just gonna say bars.
bar.
Let's keep
Yeah,
it simple. Bars.
Yeah.
Simple, yeah.
yeah. Let's keep it simple. But now you got to come up with a new word for Zeitgeist by Elzai.
Uh, geez. Um, what word can I use? Um, hmm, I'm gonna say reinvent.
Mm,
Mm.
I
interesting.
thought that this album sounded very different from his previous one,
Yeah,
and it has a lot to do with Georgia Ann's production style.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think this was probably the most eclectic in terms of
mm,
sounds that I'd heard him on before, but it
Hmm.
yeah,
worked. I thought it
yeah.
worked.
I thought so too. I really like this
Yeah.
album. All right, the last one I want to highlight was the one, and Prowess and I even brought it up. Like you got, Nas, you got, some Native Tongue influence in there, Tribe, all these like dope classic albums. And we mentioned one of the artists in this group, and I think this album is phenomenal. But I just wasn't expecting to see it in this list, so I'm curious to know what your word is, and we can chat about it a little bit. This is the UN or you out.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna say rock.
Mm,
Rock for Rock
Mm.
Marcy. This is
yeah.
I liked him the best. This was when I liked him the best
Yeah.
Yeah.
over these types of beats. I thought the way that he wrote the beats on this album, he just I prefer this version of Rock to what he is now.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
could be in the minority, but that's just my opinion.
Well, I do know when this album pops up online, or when Rock Marcy pops up online, a lot of people will say that this is their favorite, Rock Marcy album, which I mean, it's a group album, but still. Um,
Yeah,
yeah. So even people that can't stand him today, his music today,
Mhm.
love this album.
I
So
love that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's dope.
yeah.
I love it too.
And
Any other? Yeah, go ahead,
20
Pams.
years. I was just going to say, and that's even 20 years old. Like I didn't realize until
Crazy.
recently it was like 2004, and I was like, you know what? It yeah. It's just like we have seen this growth, the trajectory
Has
change
it been
so
that
much.
long already? Has it
Yeah.
been that long already?
I
Hmm.
know.
No
I
way.
know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to wrap up the one word, and you succeeded, by the way. Congratulations. You did
Okay.
each album with one word. So good job. How do you feel about hip hop today? Not, taking yourself out of the artist equation and putting yourself in just a fan of the music. How are you feeling? Are you inspired? Are you checking for new artists?
I'm hella inspired. I'm
Yeah.
always inspired. Like the folks that are sort of like myself in different cities, different countries, doing what they do, trying to, get their name out there. Those are the folks that I typically uh, have on my Bandcamp playlist. Those are the people that I actually spend money and support, as
Hmm.
opposed to, the big name guys. Not
Yeah.
that the big name guys are necessarily bad. It's just I have a more of a connection with the folks that are a little bit closer to, the level that we're at.
Yeah.
They're a
Yeah.
little bit more hungry. They're I can relate more to, their life, their struggle, because, we're kind of in the same place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I find myself, if I stumble across something that I've never heard before, and I listen to it, and I was like, my God, this is incredible. Only $10, I'm gonna buy it.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah,
dope. That's
Yeah.
dope. And I love coming across dope MCs that still listen to music on CD.
Yes.
yeah.
So I have to ask for all my CD heads out there, myself included. I have to ask two quick questions because I see the CDs in the background. Do you sort alphabetically or by like, coast, cities,
You
cruise,
know what?
clicks? Is it just a hot mess?
Cruise and clicks. That's what I sort of, yeah.
I probably would be called blasphemous for how I do it. I just kind of shove the stuff wherever. I don't catalog. I don't catalog at all. Like I'm probably making people cringe right now, but
No,
yeah,
it's
they're in my little racks. I have a couple boxes back here. They just if I'm looking for something, I'm searching.
okay.
I don't catalog. So
Hey, no judgment here. No, I'm just glad you have
Yeah.
CDs. Last question I have is jewel case or digipack?
I prefer jewel case.
Jewel case.
Personally.
Okay.
I've done
Yeah.
digis before, and I've been reminded by folks that digis are not good, so I haven't got them in ever since. Social media, I got on
Yeah.
Digi because I thought it looked nicer, but then I
Yeah.
was reminded by CD diehards that Digis don't cut it. Get jewels. So I've
Okay,
gotten
cool.
jewels ever
Yeah.
since.
Right on. That's all I got. That's all I got.
Awesome. I'm so glad. This was so fun. It was great. And I thank you so much for sharing openly with us and for joining us tonight. I know we're at the hour, Joe November. Any last words you might have before shout outs?
Um, I was gonna ask because I know you're a family man, S, and so I
Mhm.
was just curious to know like what your kids think of, daddy rapping and that kind of thing, or what kind of influence you may have had on them as far as the hip hop culture.
They they're supportive in the sense that every once in a while, if it casually comes up in conversation, they'll tell their classmates that, oh yeah, my dad raps, and their friends will be so intrigued,
Oh,
and oh yeah, he's on YouTube and he's on Spotify, and they'll share the links, and oh my God, he's good, and it's like, oh, I'm the cool dad, I guess. So
Ah, nice, nice.
but yeah,
that's
I mean, they've seen me perform a couple times, like at
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah.
festivals and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, they're really supportive. They listen to my stuff, whenever they get a chance, and they'll always put in a good word for their old man, and that's it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
That is cool. Thank you. Yeah, awesome.
yeah, listen, that's probably the best compliment you can get. If your kids think you're good, like really, that's better than
Yeah.
Chuck D. It's like, well, you know what? They're learning and they're getting that's a huge compliment.
No doubt.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Chuck D
That
is pretty
is,
cool too, though.
yeah,
Yes,
he's
yes.
cool. He's all right.
Well, I want to go on a round robin and offer for shout outs before we go to close. Who wants to start? Till, you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. Shout out to you, Prowess. Fine job tonight. Did a great job as I knew you would. So I appreciate you jumping
Very
on
good job.
board and leading the ship this year. Shout out to Rita J from the formerly of
Yeah.
the All Natural Crew, or maybe still in the All Natural Crew. I don't know. But a really dope MC out of Chicago. She's gonna
Yes.
be on the program next Thursday. Usually we're first and third Thursday, but we got to rearrange it a little bit. So we'll be on next Thursday with Rita J. So
Oh,
excited about that. Shout out to Smith and Wesson. I've been emailing with Tech and General Steel and the
Yes.
producers they've been working with, not S, but SK. Do you know
Mm.
SK?
Oh,
SK. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
yeah.
met him online a few years ago. Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh,
totally.
dope. And Stu Bangus as well. So trying to get
Oh,
all those
yeah.
guys on the program too. So shout out to Smith and Wesson, and shout out to Toronto hip hop. Shout out to my man Haz and Almas
Yeah.
Marad, and shout out to the whole crew. Joe November, obviously here, Bo Brown, Big Stowe, and my man Profound. And last but not least, shout out to you, S. Appreciate you being on the show tonight, and
Appreciate you.
yeah,
Thank you
appreciate
for, I mean,
your
the last couple of months we've had we had a nice little run, and people
yes.
seem to be vibing to our tunes. So thank you for blessing me with that banger.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
Thanks
Yes.
for doing it and saying yes. So shout out to you for sure, man. And with that, I'll pass it over to Joe November.
yeah, I just wanted, on the same vein, just a shout out to A Tribe Called Quest.
Heck yeah.
Just
Yeah.
monumental influencer. When I think about what I was doing when um, their second album, Low End Theory, came out, I was in high school. I just started high school, really, and it was one of those albums that you know about hip hop, but this one made me like fall in love with hip hop.
Mm,
And just the jazzy vibes, the easy flow, the lyrics, just everything meshed well together. And a million billion fans can't be wrong when it comes to a Tribe Called Quest. And
Right.
you could see that, just a few months back when you guys did the tributes and the remix and everything. Yeah, so shout out to those fellas. Rest in peace, Fight.
yeah.
Rest in
Yeah.
peace. Dude.
Well, I'm gonna pass and say S, you go next and do a set of shout outs and wisdom, last words.
Okay, yeah. I just want to thank the three of you for having me on this platform. I really appreciate that. I never take for granted, any outlets that give me some airtime to share
Mm,
my thoughts and feelings. So I really do appreciate that. Just shout out to everybody out there in internet land that's tuning in and listening to this podcast. And anybody that's a supporter of Boom Bap Hip Hop, stay connected to the Boom Bap Chat, everybody's hip hop, and everybody out there that's trying to keep carry on tradition and keep this thing going. So salute to everybody.
So,
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And for me, I want to say super salute and thank you so much to all three of you for putting up with me tonight. This is my first time hosting, and it was so fun, and like it was easy. So, thank you so much for being open and really being a great conversation. It was really, you dropped gems and gave me some inspiration for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you for representing the culture with such intelligence and lyricism and heart. You've been a vital part of this community, and I love everything that you're doing. So
Thank you. Appreciate that.
yes. And speaking of the culture, giving it up for Toronto hip hop that we heard is like, it's such a authentic sound. And I grew up listening to a lot of Eternia, but I love Eternia. And shout out to Sons of Boom Bap, because it really is about this staying true to the rugged raw sound. We all respect. It's really building something special, and there's so much coming down the line. On the album tip, I just wanted to say shout out, big ups to Rhapsody, which I feel like has not gotten enough love. There's that album, her newest album has I feel like it's making rounds across. She's really been great at getting it out there across waves and Jimmy Fallon and everywhere. But it's really, it really puts a spotlight back on intricate bars and powerful messages, and I feel like so that's important. And Sky Zoo with new projects, Rome Streets, Buzzing, Dochi with the new Boom Bap single, like breaking barriers and blending genres with her sound and flow. So it's so much like in the new school, and kind of Little Sims with the storytelling stuff. So anyway, that's all of my things. It's just the heartbeats and of hip hop. It's the soul and the spirit. Boom bap will always be the foundation. And so I'm always trying to big up preserving culture while embracing all of these new voices that are coming out that are continuing to celebrate. So yeah.
You just dropped probably some future guests of this podcast.
Heck yeah.
We can get them on.
Oh, yeah.
Some of them have already been on here before, like Sky Zoo. But yeah, we definitely got to get some more people on there. To who you just mentioned. Great influences, great musicians.
Yes. I can't wait. Well, I mean, if we're closing, I would say that's a wrap, I guess, for tonight's Boom Bap Chat. Thank you again, as for blessing us with your deep love for the culture. It really was an honor to dive into your journey. And thank you for sharing all the gems about hip hop and community and staying true to the craft. And everybody, stay connected with Everybody's Hip Hop as we continue celebrating the essence of real hip hop. And we'll be here next Thursday.
Cool.
Yes.
Peace, y'all.
Peace.